Learning to express our love in words is one of the most important aspects of our relationship, and it is also one of the most difficult. It's both critical and challenging because our words have power. Our words have the ability to build up relationships or they can tear them down. What comes out of our mouth can deepen our marriage or it can derail it. Our words can develop our children's self-esteem or it can destroy it. Our tongue can draw people to the body of Christ or it can divide it. When it comes to telling it like it is, there are three types of people in this world. There are those who believe if you don't have anything good to say, you shouldn't say anything at all. There are those who believe if you don't have anything good to say, you should say it anyway. And then there are those who believe that if you don't have anything good to say about a person, you should say it behind their back. Which one of these three types of people are you? Whether you're giving feedback, having a come to Jesus meeting, staging an intervention, or just having a candid talk, there are moments in every relationship where we need to have a crucial conversation with our spouse, a parent, your coworker, or a fellow believer. Before you're faced with another one of these situations, let me give you three things that you should ask yourself before you open your mouth. First, ask yourself, will my words be honest? Ephesians 4:15 says, speaking the truth in love, we will grow to become in every respect the mature body of him who is the head, that is Christ. Now, part of the reason why God places us in relationship with one another is to help each other grow. That marriage, those children, those parents, co-workers, church members, and neighbors, these are all part of the relationships arranged by God to help you grow. And in order for growth to take place, there are two components that must be part of our communication with one another. That's truth and love. Now, when it comes to these two concepts, I think we have a tendency to see these things as being mutually exclusive. For most of us, it feels like in order to pursue one of these, we have to be willing to sacrifice the other. And for that reason, I think we all have a tendency to lean in one direction over the other. In fact, as I describe these tendencies, I want you to consider which one of them is true for you. Now, some of us prefer kindness even at the cost of being truthful. Maybe you're a parent who avoids telling your child the truth because you don't want to hurt their feelings. Or you are a husband or a wife who doesn't want to address certain deficiencies with your spouse in order to keep the peace. Or maybe you're a ministry leader who doesn't like giving feedback. Or a believer who would never correct a fellow believer because you wouldn't want to embarrass them. Or worse yet, you don't want them to embarrass you. But if you stop and think about the primary reason Paul encourages us to speak the truth in love, you realize that there are several problems with this kindness over correction approach. First of all, it's not love. And second, the person you're holding back truth from doesn't grow as a result of this technique. Remember, the goal is maturity. And guess what? Failing to hold others accountable actually keeps you from growing. And perhaps you haven't considered it, but your relationship with that person, it doesn't grow either. So some people prefer being friendly over being straightforward, and there's consequences related to it. And some people lean the other way. They love speaking the truth. They love being honest and blunt with people, but love is really not an emphasis in the way that they express themselves. In fact, I knew a guy who once told me that his spiritual gift was to expose sin in the life of leaders and pastors. I pointed him to Revelations 12:10 and reminded him that Satan already had the job of accusing the saints. Anyway, friends, we are called to speak truth to one another, but Ephesians 4:15 explains to us that the motive behind our truth must always be love. When we speak the truth in love, we must understand that the love here is an agape love. It's the most sacrificial type of love possible. Now, the reason I like this verse is because Paul is laying out a formula for us where he explains that truth plus love equals growth. Replace love with anything else and the result is something other than mutual growth and benefit. Speaking the truth motivated by anger is judgment. It's not love. Speaking the truth motivated by the desire to embarrass a person is ridicule. That ain't love either. Speaking the truth motivated by jealousy is player hating. That ain't love. Speaking the truth about me to someone else is gossip. That's not love either. Paul shows us that the ultimate goal of speaking the truth is to help each other grow. And the only way for that goal to be accomplished is for what you say to be motivated by love to see the other person built up in love. So, number one, ask yourself, will my words be honest? And here's the second thing we should ask ourselves. Are the words that are about to come out of my mouth chosen carefully? We should always be careful with what we say. But let me give you three situations where we need to be especially careful with our words. First, we need to be careful with our words when we are angry. Ephesians 4:26 says this. It says, if you in your anger do not sin, do not let the sun go down while you are still angry, and do not give the enemy, the devil, a foothold. Now, is anger a sin? No, it's not. And in fact, there are times when you should be angry. For example, if you arrive home in the evening and there's a man climbing out of the window of your house wearing a black mask and carrying your laptop and your television, I think you should get angry. If you file your taxes and discover that some other relative in your family has used your kid's social security number on their income tax, I think the appropriate response to that situation is for you to be mad. If you see a person being treated unfairly or being taken advantage of, or someone who we love is being threatened or hurt, which emotion is most appropriate? Is it joy, sadness, fear? No, the appropriate response is anger. My point is that the Bible actually reveals that there are two types of anger exercised in any relationship and in any communication, one that helps and one that harms. The type of anger that helps is one that is exercised when our emotions are provoked by injustice, immorality, mistreatment, or discrimination. It is useful to correct, to fix, or to change a circumstance or situation that needs to be changed. Now, the type of anger that hurts, the one that usually provokes us to sin, is an emotion that is triggered by a bad mood, by fatigue, irritation, embarrassment, disappointment, an unfulfilled desire, failed efforts, unrealistic expectations, circumstantial evidence, wrong assumptions, or suspicions. If what you're about to say is triggered by anger, friends, we should ask ourselves if what is about to come out of our mouth either driven by harm or driven by help. If it's harm, don't talk. You're about to damage the relationship. You're also about to sin, and you're about to damage your relationship with God as well. Be careful with your words when you're angry, and also be careful with your words as it relates to gossip. Proverbs 16:28 says this, a perverse person stirs up conflict, and a gossip separates friends. Now, friends, real talk. As Christians, we have perfected the art of making gossip sound spiritual. For example, we use the prayer petition technique. I've heard that often, where we'll say, hey, we need to pray for Juan and Maria's marriage because they are having some problems, right? It sounds spiritual, but at the same time, we're able to convey some tea in the midst of that situation. Or we use the Ephesians 4:15 technique, where we claim to be speaking the truth in love, when we are really speaking the truth out of spite or ridicule or jealousy. I've even heard believers make up fake scriptures like tell the truth and shame the devil, which is not in the Bible at all. You know that, right? That line was popularized in the 16th century from a play written by Shakespeare. So be careful when we are responding to gossip. In fact, let me give you 3 quick ways to stop gossip in its tracks. When someone comes to you with some tea, say this, say, girl, guess what Solomon told them? By the way, they won't even know who Solomon is, but I guarantee that this will not stop them from wanting to hear the gossip. And when they respond and you lean in, look both ways, then quote Proverbs 26:20. Tell them this and do it in a whisper. Say, fire goes out without wood and quarrels disappear when gossip stops. I'm sure that'll stop gossip. Oh, and when someone comes to you using the fake prayer petition technique, take the person's hand and invite the person to pray with you about the issue on the spot. I guarantee it'll shut it down, at least as it relates to it coming to you. So we've got to be really careful about the words that we use. As it relates to choosing our words carefully, be careful with too many words also. Proverbs 21:23 says, watch your words and hold your tongue. You'll save yourself a lot of grief. You know, I felt a little conviction about this point in particular because, well, I talk a lot. Do you ever talk a lot, but it doesn't fix anything? One of the most effective ways to avoid talking too much is to be more prayerful about situations before you speak. If you know that there's a crucial conversation that needs to take place, you should take it to God before taking it to the person that you need to speak with. God will give you the right words to say. He'll arrange the right time to convey the message, and he'll even prepare the hearts of the people involved to receive the message in the right way. There's a lot more that I can say about this, but I want to practice what I'm preaching. I don't want to use too many words, so I'll just end that point right there. Friends, before we open our mouths to speak, there are 3 questions that we should ask ourselves. Will my words be honest? Have I chosen my words carefully? And here's the third and perhaps the most important question that we should ask ourselves. Will my words be helpful? Paul says this in Ephesians chapter 4, verse 29. He says, do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouths, but only what is helpful for building others up according to their needs, that it may benefit those who listen. Take a moment and think about how often we are having crucial conversations with loved ones where instead of helping the relationship and helping the person, our words harm the person and the relationship. Even when we love the person, even when what we're trying to convey to the person is truth, far too often we get distracted with the conversation when the conversation gets heated. And we lose our temper, or we get distracted by emotions and feelings, or we get sidetracked by feeling the need to defend our motives. We forget that the sacrificial love with which we are called to speak the truth requires us to set aside our feelings and desires and motives to truly focus on building the other person up. This is when we have to stop and remind ourselves that our goal is to help. So let me close with 5 words that I believe does that. According to Proverbs 12:25, kind words help transform worry to joy. Proverbs 15:1 says that gentle words diffuse anger. Pleasant words encourage learning, according to Proverbs 16:22. Honest words make us feel loved. Proverbs 24:26 says it's like a kiss on the lips. And Proverbs 12:18 says that thoughtless words can wound as deeply as any sword, but wisely spoken words can heal.